Michael Cohen's ongoing legal troubles could shape up to be a major problem for President Trump sooner rather than later. The New York Times reported Sunday investigators in New York could be planning to file charges against the president's former personal lawyer before the end of August. The charges will likely surround bank and tax fraud relating to the Cohen family taxi companies, specifically more than $20 million in loans from two banks. Investigators are also looking at whether Cohen failed to accurately report income from his taxi medallions to the IRS. And though the president presumably won't be directly linked to any of the charges, he may still be tied to the case.
Anything involving Cohen has indirect implications for the president in that they could encourage Cohen to want to cooperate with prosecutors. We know that at very least Cohen knows things that are politically embarrassing to the president. What's much less clear is whether he knows anything that's legally problematic for the president.
Keith Whittington is a professor of political science at Princeton University. He says special counsel Robert Mueller likely signed off on sending the case to U.S. attorneys in New York.
Presumably, the Mueller investigators have already looked at Cohen enough to think that at least the stuff they immediately saw was not directly relevant to what they were doing, which is one reason why they passed the case off to U.S. attorneys in New York, that the issues that they saw regarding Cohen were things that were relevant for a local prosecutor, but didn't matter immediately to Mueller's own investigation.
But that doesn't mean Cohen won't work with prosecutors to strike a plea deal, and he could provide valuable information to the Mueller team investigating possible collusion between Trump's campaign and Moscow.
Cohen could change his mind about cooperating, even relatively late in the process, and so you could imagine charges being brought and even a trial beginning without Cohen necessarily deciding to cooperate more than he already has. If I were the president, I wouldn't be confident that Cohen would be willing to, for example, go to jail before revealing information that might be damaging to the president.
The Times says there is no evidence that Cohen's potential fraud harmed the banks he borrowed from, or even that he failed to pay back the loans.
Well, it certainly helps Cohen's case in that regard. Part of what prosecutors and ultimately judges look at is a question of whether or not there was potential damage done. It's helpful from his perspective that if no one was actually harmed, but it doesn't get him out of the woods.
The report also indicates possible charges relating to campaign finance violations, specifically when Cohen paid $130,000 to silence adult film star Stormy Daniels, who claims to have slept with the president.
The issues that are being investigated for the campaign finance violations probably most directly involve Cohen himself and how he was keeping records and what he was doing. So they're clearly related to the president, but the criminal liability appears to be Cohen's in this case rather than the president himself.
While the liability may fall on Cohen, he has made it clear in distancing himself from the president that he is more open to cooperating with investigators than when he said he'd take a bullet for the president in 2017.